everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from wet and rainy Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on today's show, Dan, we're going to be talking about death by Mormonism.
Right.
Is that what it is?
We're going to be previewing some of what we're going to be discussing in our talk at the conference on death, grief, and belief.
Yeah.
And calling on you, dear listeners, to help us out with it. So we're going to tell you some of our stories. We want to hear yours.
Yeah.
It's going to be an exchange.
Yes.
So
and we'll have some information about how to sign up and go to the
come to the
itself.
conference in July in Portland.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be in Portland in July?
It sounds lovely.
I like New York in June, but I like Portland in July. That's a fact. Everybody knows that.
Oh, golly. And also, Dan, we're going to be changing our release date for the show, and we just wanted to say it on the show.
A little bit of housekeeping
before we
you
do
guys.
it. Because, if the show isn't posted promptly Saturday afternoon, we hear about it. And it's flattering. It's wonderful.
No,
Please.
as well we should.
Yeah,
as well we should.
And we've created a pattern. People are used to it. And it is nice to hear from you because it says that people are kind of excited to hear the show. But as of, this show's going to, as you all know already, it showed up on time. Hopefully.
This show
Fingers
dropped
crossed.
When they normally do, barring some bizarre problem.
However, in the future going forward, we're going to be posting the show. I believe we decided very early Tuesday morning. It should be available by drive time.
Yeah.
Is wherever you are in North America.
Yeah.
That should work for you. So,
on if you're a Sunday listener, if you're a Saturday listener,
our apologies.
Yeah.
You'll miss a week.
You may skip a week. It may happen.
Sorry.
But you'll get back on board.
Yeah.
We'll all be fine. Everybody will be fine. It's fine.
We'll somehow survive. Yeah. But Dan, here's some people who are, they're trying to survive. They're doing their best, but they probably should have behaved themselves first. It's Catholic bishops. There's a bunch of them in California.
I think the concept that Catholic bishops should have behaved themselves is a bit of an understatement. Almost universally.
As a lot of people probably know, because I think we talked about it on the show, but if not, maybe you heard about it. California, dealing with sort of sexual assault, the statute of limitations with sexual assault, they did this 1 year window back in 2002. Yeah, we didn't talk about it on the show because we weren't recording the show back then. For plaintiffs to bring sexual abuse claims against the Catholic Church, even if the statute of limitations had expired many decades earlier.
New York did something similar a few years ago.
That might be what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that year ended, there had been a shit ton of cases that came forward. And the Catholic Church really, they didn't think it was very fair.
Who would have seen that coming?
There was 1,000 lawsuits dating back to the 1930s. Come on, guys.
Right?
You should have come forward with this already.
We molested you so long ago.
We can barely remember it. How can you?
Yeah. Honestly, you're still not over that? What? Jesus, get a life, man.
Anyway, they had settlements worth more than $1 billion in total.
Wow.
And in order to finance the settlements, they sold off church property, massive amounts of church holdings.
Yeah.
And in some cases, they had to relinquish their insurance coverage for past and future abuse claims, right? In order to get insurance.
Because who would fucking insure them against that?
Exactly. At this point. Exactly. Right. And so they had to just say to their insurers, this is the one time that we're going to that you have to pay us.
Mhm.
And they were like, okay, all right, here's your money, but you can never come back. This well is dry.
Yeah.
Well, California has passed a law again, opening up another window.
Yeah.
And the Catholic Church is none too pleased. These bishops are like, hey, we thought we were in the clear this time.
We thought, look, we already did a window. Now it's okay for us to molest again, right?
That's what we understood that to me.
I thought that was our deal.
So they have asked the Catholic majority U.S. Supreme Court to review a case challenging that state law.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. 6 out of the 9 folks of this U.S. Supreme Court are Catholic. That is way out of whack with the population at large, which Catholics make up about 12% of the population.
Only 12. I thought it was closer to 20.
I looked it up right before we started recording, and Google said 12.
Okay.
So unless it misunderstood what I was asking.
I mean, is that people who attend mass, or is that people who just say I'm Catholic when you ask them? Because that's a much higher number.
I was not that nuanced with Google. I just sort of was like, hey, how, like, tell me.
It's nowhere near 6 out of 9.
No, it's not. 66% of the country is not Catholic.
No.
I mean, that thing's a mess right now. So we'll see. We'll see if they can stand up to a bunch of bishops,
right?
And just be like, well, I mean, California, they can do whatever they want.
This puts a lot of pressure on the right, because on the one hand, it's like, if you say the word religion, then you get to win. If you're on the side of religion, no matter what, you get to win. But they've been really down on pedophiles lately.
Yeah.
So much so that they're just making them up. They're making up pedophiles left and right. When there are real ones just running amok, wearing vestments and robes.
Yeah. The great and abominable pedophilic church.
Yeah. It's a I mean, if you want a pedophile ring to go after, I got news for you. The name Clinton doesn't have to come up. You can just go to the church.
There's some low-hanging fruit here, guys.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Listen, we have talked about how the United Methodist Church is deuniting.
Oh.
They are ununiting. They're skizzing in point of fact. That is happening. It was voted upon, and it is happening. There is a new religion that is forming that is called the Global Methodist Church.
Oh.
Rather than the United Methodist Church. So,
is it really global?
Is it really united? Who knows? No, it is global.
Okay.
Because
is this the more conservative one?
A lot of the real grumps are outside of the U.S.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
You get those Africans, you get Eastern Europeans, you're going to get some. That's where the real LGBTQ hatred is, and that's what's driving this more than anything. Is, being nice to gay people is apparently real hard. So anyway, it turns out that skizzing isn't as easy as they had hoped.
Oh, no.
They had put in a whole lot of work to try and come up with a protocol.
You can't just slam the door. Can't just stomp out, slam the door behind you.
The real problem is that the United Methodist Church owns that building that you guys are meeting in. You know what I mean? Like, you were affiliated with us, and the name on the door says United Methodist Church, and that's also the name on the lease or whatever.
So maybe you got to go rent a meeting room somewhere.
Well, no, they have worked very hard. What they had done was they worked very hard to come up with this protocol of reconciliation and grace through separation, which
good Lord.
That's a very, that's not a mouthful at all. And what ended up happening was they came up with a whole procedure, a whole process, blah, 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 hoping to avoid internal litigation because they have an entire like court system within the United Methodist Church. Well, guess what? The court said no. So all of that is for naught, as the Judicial Council decided that they are going to step in and make it a little bit messier than they were hoping. It's already a big fucking mess, but multiple of what are called annual conferences, which sounds like it's just like you attend once a year, but that's just what you call a large group within, I don't know. It's a diocese, maybe? I don't know. Anyway.
I just can't get over the fact that they have a judicial system. Like, where do these people get off? Like, come on. Who do you think you are?
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the annual conferences of Northwest Texas and South Georgia were all set to disaffiliate and become global Methodists instead of united. But the Judicial Council, which sounds a little Star Warsy, you know what I mean? Like it's a Sith thing or something.
Sounds like George Lucas made it up.
Decided what? That was
right.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of global, the Bulgaria-Romania Provisional Annual Conference also has voted to leave, among many others. So,
oh wow,
they've
it's just falling apart, Dan.
Well, it's a tough world out there when people are wanting to be nice to gay people just because they're, just because that would be the civil and human thing to do.
I think we should have our own internal judicial system.
A TGIA judicial system?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Comprised of us?
Yeah, in order to resolve our conflicts.
That our judicial system operates simply by both of us picking up gavels and then shaking them at each other.
It's
yelling,
very
I
civilized.
Object.
It's very civilized, Dan.
Fortunately,
you don the robes, the appropriate robes. It puts you in a specific mood, a judgy sort of mood.
That's right. And then we just rule on each other's motions.
Denied.
Overruled.
All right, Dan. I'll have to hold you in contempt, Dan.
That sounds about right.
I probably already do. But Dan, I didn't want to do this story.
I didn't want to do any of the stories today. It's just it's a hard time, you guys. It is a negative time in our world right now.
Our job is to read these stories and try to laugh about them.
Yeah, find some lightheartedness in it. It is not an easy job.
This one doesn't have it. This one, it's not here, Dan. Let's see if we can find it. This is about a church in San Jose, Pentecostal church. That is true. This is the one that you probably heard about some suspects in a kidnapping of an infant boy in San Jose last month, and it was kind of part of this churchy community thing. It's the same church.
A really good church.
Yeah. So that was then. This is now, even though the story is kind of a little old, but there's some new news about it. The leaders of the church have confirmed officially now that they performed a ceremony on a child who, I should say, an exorcism. It wasn't just a ceremony.
It was a specific ceremony
on a 3-year-old, and the end result was her death.
Oh my God!
So, and they've confirmed that. We did that. We held the exorcism to quote liberate her of her evil spirits. A 3-year-old.
She was 3.
And they say that what happened, meaning her death, was quote the will of God.
Oh, wow.
And not the consequence of an exorcism, because it couldn't possibly be the exorcism.
Right.
Because according to Rene Hueso, he's pastor of Iglesia Apostoles y Profetas. That was very good, everyone.
That was perfect. Nailed it.
He says, if you read the Bible, you'll see that Jesus casts away demons and made sick people healthy again. And I also love, I just need to pause for just a minute, because like they're always like, oh yeah, Jesus did it. Well, according to your own theory about Jesus, he was God on earth.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, maybe there are things that he could do in your little story that maybe you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Or can't do. Maybe
walk
it's
on
that.
water a time or two before you jump to killing a kid.
Anyway, unpause. Oh, he's also the grandfather of the victim. He says, it's not when I want to do it. It's when God in his will wants to heal the person. The preacher is like an instrument of God. What we do is what God says. This guy's so fucking full of himself. So
Go
the
be
child,
an instrument of God in jail.
yeah, go do that.
Go be an instrument of God outside of society where you can do less harm.
Yeah. According to the Santa Clara County Medical Examiner's Office, the death was by asphyxiation, and it has been ruled a homicide.
Yeah.
The child's mother withheld food from the girl and was the one squeezing her neck during the exorcism. She's been arrested and charged with assault on a child, resulting in death.
No, you charge her with homicide. You charge the whole group with homicide. That is just, it is infuriating that a mother could, because I have no doubt in my mind that she believed she was doing something good.
She wasn't.
That these people believed that they were doing something good. Because you wouldn't do that. You would never put your hands around your child's throat and strangle them. It's just...
You're being very generous, Dan.
I'm just saying religion poisons brains.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Another preacher at the church who was not present at the exorcism actually spoke to the media. He said, we know we haven't done anything dark, and we know that we have a clean conscience, that we haven't done any harm, that we haven't provoked the death of the girl. As I say, precautions and actions weren't taken to deal with that case. That was something natural that happened. Her death was natural.
Right. She died of natural causes, and those causes were not being able to breathe because someone's hands were around her throat.
And he continues, maybe, I don't know, we didn't take the most logical approach.
Oh, God.
Is what he says.
Wow.
Yeah, I unfortunately, he's actually not talking about, the illogical approach of actually performing an exorcism.
Right.
He says, and we should have taken precautions that should have been taken to take her to a hospital and make sure she's okay. Oh yeah, that's important.
You
think? She was dead for an hour before they called 911.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. There you go. Yeah.
I guess the demon won that round.
Well, she was really, really possessed. She was a very evil 3-year-old.
She was mega possessed.
Her mother sometimes asked her to pick up her room 2 or 3 times. And
nothing.
She just wouldn't.
Just
wouldn't.
Nothing.
Something was seriously wrong with that child.
Okay. Well,
that is, I don't even feel good about saying, trying to make that joke. All right. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to, that's okay. We'll move on from a story that's intractable and impossible to feel good about to Jerusalem and conflicts between Jews and Palestinians. So that should be great, right?
This will be cheery.
Yeah, this will be great. So people who know Jerusalem know that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is built, which is one of it's considered the third holiest site for Muslims in the world.
Yes.
Is built on a hilltop, which is one of the holiest sites for Jews in the world, called the Temple Mount.
Yeah, it's not. Fortunately, they figured it all out with like some sort of time sharing thing like forever ago. It works great.
It's literally. Do you know what they call this sort of the agreement that they're all operating under?
No, I guess I don't know.
They call it the status quo.
They couldn't come up with a better name than that.
It should. Yeah. No. Anyway,
status quos have a way of changing over time.
Of being disrupted. Yeah, they kind of do. And this is, I mean, if anything, this is an encapsulation, a synecdoche, if you will, for the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is everybody feels like they have the right to everything, and everything is sacred and holy to everybody, but in different ways. So, yeah there's a bit of a conflict there. The thing is that for a while, for just a brief while during the holiday period, the Muslim holiday period, they were not allowing Jews onto the Temple Mount. This is a thing that happens every year, I guess. And then on this last Thursday, the Thursday before this last Thursday, for you guys listening at home, they started to allow Jewish visits again. And it's such a stupid setup. Like, Jews are allowed to go onto the Temple Mount, but they're not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. And every now and then somebody prays like quietly to themselves, and it just causes holy hell. It's all very stupid, but they allowed the Jewish visits to continue, and immediately several rounds of clashes occurred.
Oh,
because of course they did. Police came in, and Israeli police arrested a whole bunch of Muslims, and rocks were thrown after the police got there. Not before, not inciting, but apparently around 50 Palestinians were detained.
Good Lord.
And then things just went back to normal. Or maybe that is things
back to
normal.
the status quo.
Back to, what would you call it? I don't know. The status quo. Oh man, it feels like the conflict is the status quo. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that because we had some people write into us about last week and me ranting about the Israeli-Palestinian
excellent
conflict.
All right, Dan. Wouldn't be a really good episode of Thank God I'm Atheist without the Mormons.
The Mormons. Oh, good. I'm so glad.
And here's a little update. We like to know what's going on with the Mormon church membership numbers, increases, decreases, what have yous.
Lies about how many there are.
Apparently, in over the last couple of years, the number of Mormons has actually shrank in 21 U.S. states.
Wow.
They lost membership.
Considering how much effort is put into gaining new Mormons, that's actually kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Now, globally, they were up 0.8%.
Wow.
And nationally, they were up 0.6%. But yeah, 21 states and the District of Columbia saw their numbers decrease. California was down 2.84%. Almost 3%.
That's a lot.
And there are a lot of Mormons. Right?
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
In California.
There are more Mormons than you're thinking there are in California.
It's like the second largest state for Mormon population.
which probably has more to do with the fact that it's such a populous state. But that's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of Mormons in Southern California. Then there's North Dakota. They lost 2.28%.
Whoa.
Washington State lost 2%. And then, you have like New Jersey, Louisiana, and Nebraska, which also all lost some, but they were small declines. They had some percentages that went up. South Dakota went up 6.5%.
Wow.
That's weird.
So they gained 3 Mormons in South Dakota?
I mean, that is the thing about percentages, right? Percentage increases, right?
Yeah.
You
got to look at the total population.
Yeah. And so, you get a few new ones. May not mean that much to have 6 points. But anyway, Arkansas up 5.3%, and Tennessee up almost 5%.
Wow.
Which is just kind of crazy. So, yeah, there you go.
Too many Mormons. There are too many. It doesn't matter how many there are. If it's a non-zero number, we've got too many Mormons.
I know. I can't wait for Utah to be on the decrease list.
It's almost surprising that they're not, other than the fact that we know that they're just having babies too much.
Yeah, just too many babies.
So that's how they do it. That's how they keep the numbers up here. just babies and babies.
Oh God, they just won't let it go, will they?
All right. I'm going to close this off. I'm going to go a little north of here for our final story, and I'm going to take us to Idaho, where, just like the rest of this country, terrifying things are happening politically. And one of those terrifying things comes in the form of Idaho Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin.
Oh, no kidding.
Who is we've talked about her before. She's the one who, like, the second the governor left the state, she changed the COVID rules because she thought she just could.
Well, I mean, technically she could.
She is like crazy.
Like, in the most technical sense, according to the way their state is set up, she was governor while he was out of the state or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, she's nuts.
Anyway, she is a non-good faith actor is part of what is exactly. Part of what we know. She's like one of her campaign. She's currently running for governor.
Oh dear God.
And one of her campaign things, there's an image, this amazing image of her in some sort of big van in tactical khaki. That's the van, not her. She's holding. She's in the driver's seat, looking out the window, holding in one hand a pistol and in the other a Bible, and then there's an American flag dangling off the side.
Oh my God!
It's that kind of a thing. She recently did an interview in which now this is a woman, by the way. I will say this is a woman who at one point very recently participated in a far-right extremist gathering, the AFPAC, whatever that is. Right. And then when she was called out on it, like she was interviewed by Boise's KTVB reporter Brian Holmes, he said, "Hey, do you happen to know the guy who runs this? This is this guy Nicholas Fuentes, who's a very out and proud white supremacist and nationalist, and just a horrible human in general." And he said, the person who put this on is Nicholas Fuentes. Do you know who she is? And you can track down that interview. It is uncomfortable. And eventually he's calling her out. He's basically saying, "You're associating with this guy." And she's like, "You can't just say I'm associating with him just because I have made an association with him." And then she eventually leaves. And then and now she just did an interview recently in which she ends it by looking directly at the camera and saying, "God calls us to pick up the sword and fight, and Christ will reign in the state of Idaho.
Oh, boy.
So that's where we're at, kids. We need to vote. All of us. If you don't live in the United States, move here and vote, please.
Yeah.
Because
we need all the help we can get.
It's they're literally trying to install Christo-fascism in this country, and they're not making any bones about it. They're just saying it now.
Yeah. Holy crap. Well, I mean, it's scary, and fear is a good motivator, right?
Yeah.
For maybe people will get out and vote. I hope
so. I hope maybe this leaked Roe v. Wade decision and just seeing the crazy winning, maybe that's enough to get a few people out voting. Good Lord.
Yeah, heaven help us.
Well, if you would like to comment on this or any of our stories, please feel free to do so. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com is the email address.
Or you can call us and leave a voicemail message. Our telephone number is 424-666-8442. We may play it on the show. Stick around, there's more show coming up.
Hey, Frank.
Dan!
You know how we were just talking about how the Christian nationalists are trying to take over our country?
Yes.
You know how that's kind of been a theme of late on our show?
Yeah.
Well,
do we have to
here's
deal with
another
it? No, Dan.
Yeah, sure.
More?
We're just gonna keep going with it. This is a pastor who wants to tell us all about, or rather, he's talking to God, and he's envisioning a plan for public education. Let's see. I'm going to give our listeners a little task. See if you can come up with where he might be being hypocritical.
Oh, okay.
Now, Lord, according to your word, we take authority over our education system. And Lord, we call for righteousness in our education system, truth in our education system, justice in our education system. We cast down that demonic hold of indoctrination in our education system. And God, we declare that there's no education outside of the word of the living God. There's no true education outside of the word of the living God. We declare according to your word that all of our children shall be disciples, taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace and undisturbed composure of our children. So God, we call for righteousness in every level of education. I call forth righteous superintendents, righteous teachers, righteous principals, righteousness now. And that by righteousness and the word of righteousness, the demonic and the deception and the evil that is taught in the classroom would be driven out by the hand of God. Driven out by the hand of God. Driven out now by the hand of God. And God, I thank you for young people who are taught according to your word in Jesus' name.
Did you catch it, Frank? Did you catch that he was talking about how he doesn't want indoctrination of the children?
But he does want to indoctrinate them.
He loves indoctrination of children. Are you kidding me? That's his favorite thing.
Just can't be the wrong kind.
Just not your indoctrination.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
God, if I didn't want to live in a country with just a bunch of like ding-dongs running around, although I do, let's just let them not educate their kids.
Right?
I mean, it would be awful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if we could just keep them all down in like Texas and Alabama and just put a fence around it, we'll build the wall. It's their dream. It's your dream, not ours.
Oh, Lord knows they won't be able to read a map or be good with geography.
Right.
They won't know that they're surrounded by a fence. Make it big enough.
you have to have a certain level of education before you have earned Google. So you don't get that. Oh my gosh.
Good Lord, Dan.
Well, we had some folks write into us, call into us. We had some folks, some correspondence, and I love it when that happens. Douglas wrote into us, and Douglas had a very long and very informative email, but I've tried to pare it down just so that, because I wanted to get to the meat of what he was saying. Douglas says, Dear Dan, this is directed to me because it's about something that I was saying on last week's show. Point of clarification on episode 543 from a lawyer licensed in 3 states and practicing for over 30 years. Hate speech is absolutely protected under the First Amendment. Confusion on this issue is understandable, as states do pass hate crime laws. Under these laws, there is no such thing as the crime of hate speech. Instead, certain motives, if proven, can be aggravating circumstances to underlying crimes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is no law in any state that criminalizes speech in and of itself. Douglas goes on, I would take strong issue with your statement, this is my statement, that speech is violence. For a number of reasons, but mostly because it is just false, at least inasmuch as violence suggests a physical assault on a person or property. When I was in law school, we brought in the Jewish ACLU lawyer who represented the Nazi party so they could march through Skokie, a city with the most per capita Holocaust survivors of any place in the country at the time. That case went to the Supreme Court, and the Nazis/ACLU won. Although I was a member of the student division of the ACLU myself at the time, as a Jewish student, I struggled with the case and the decision of the lawyer to take the case for a long time. Over the years, however, observing political tides shift in our culture over decades since school, I have come to the conclusion that the ACLU lawyer was 100% correct in his commitment to represent the most noxious elements of our society in exercising First Amendment rights when weighed against the sensibilities of any individuals or groups. I doubt you have the time or desire to read my exhaustive explanation why I think this to be the case. For now, suffice it to say that the restriction of speech of any kind will never end with the target of your choice and will always end up aimed back at the promulgators of the restrictions like a loose cannon. So thanks, Douglas. I think that's a totally valid perspective. And I still think that there's psychological violence in speech, but I think that you're right, at very least in a legal sense, to point out that that's not the same thing as physical violence. So there you go.
All right.
Miles wrote into us to say, hello, Frank and Dan. I was just listening to your recent podcast, and I thought I would give you my 2 cents about the, quote, purge of the Christians in the military.
Oh,
you remember we talked about how some military Christians were just talking about how they were just being purged. The Christians were being purged out of the military. And they were very worried about it.
Choice, isn't it?
Yeah. Miles says, I have been in the Air Force for 16 years. And to think the military wants to get rid of Christians is laughable. Most of the base chaplains are Christians. Every time we deploy, they always give us Bibles. When we have a military function, a promotion ceremony, change of command, etc., we have to have a prayer before the beginning of the ceremony. The actual reason why they were getting kicked out is because they disobeyed a lawful order to get vaccinated. The military has given us other vaccines that weren't fully tested or were still in the experiment phase, and all the people had no issues taking them. I truly don't understand why this one is a bridge too far. Their extremism has gotten so bad that we now have to do training because so many people in the military adamantly believe in QAnon.
Oh my God.
But that's what happens when you quell critical thinking skills. That is an accurate statement. When you start to say, don't think for yourselves.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They don't.
Good to hear that they're doing trainings to in reaction to QAnon, though. I hadn't heard that. That's great.
It's probably way too little and way too late, and probably just something that's easy to spin into. See, they're trying to kick out good Christians. But there you go. We have a voicemail, do we not?
We do. A caller responding about last week. I think she explains it pretty well. So let's just have a listen.
Hey, Frank and Dan. This is Brandy Beckett calling again. I was just listening to the latest episode where that nut job guy, Stu Peters, I think his name was talking about how left-wing liberals and communists are all transgender demonic rapists. And so I decided I'm going to call in with funny jokes about how I'm a trans demonic person who can't have kids, so I steal them and rape them or something. I wanted to make a joke out of all that, but it's just getting to me. As a trans person, I am literally the butt of their jokes. An insult to a typical person is call them trans, and you just demolish them according to these right-wing nut jobs. I exist as the butt of a joke and nothing else to these people, and it's getting so hard to tolerate. I don't know what to do anymore. Anyways, your thoughts?
Oof.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
That is it's such an important perspective.
Absolutely.
To remind people of, because it can be so easy to otherize and demonize someone who you don't have to meet.
Mm.
But the fact of the matter is, like, somebody taking someone's actual identity, just who they are,
right,
and turning it into, I mean, as she said, the butt of a joke, but also an
insult,
a literal demonization, like saying you are possessed by demons. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So, Brandy, I want you to know that we're with you, and that we honor who you are for who you are. I'm choking up a little bit, honestly, because it pisses me off so much, this hatred and this evil that these people are promulgating in this country and around the world. And it is just, there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. They're just hateful.
They're hateful, and they're doing it for their own political gain.
They're doing it for gain.
It's sick.
It is sick.
Disgusting. It's yeah. I don't even know what to say.
There's nothing to say. Fuck them. Fuck them. And everybody get out there and find yourself a trans person to hug.
Yeah.
Because they need it.
Preferably, get permission. Get permission at least.
Get some consent first.
Maybe get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But just a little, can I give you a hug?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but
yeah,
I like the sentiment.
All of our trans listeners just know that I am hugging you from my heart.
I think that's lovely. Yeah.
And finally, we had one more writer in. This is Rabbi Gruber, our resident expert. I was hoping he would write in, and I was hoping that I wouldn't be too excoriated, because as we already heard last week, I talked about the head of the Anti-Defamation League pronouncing all the groups that condemn Israeli violence against the Palestinians, calling them anti-Semitic. And I had much to say about that, so I was hoping I wouldn't get I wouldn't be in too much trouble. Here's what Rabbi Gruber had to say. Dear Frank and Dan, thank you so much for addressing the ADL issue. I was surprised to hear that Jonathan Greenblatt, who did not risk his life for Israel, would say that people like me, who proudly did, but who are heartbroken over Israel's horrendous behavior, are anti-Semitic. In all seriousness, This is a difficult issue. Are there people who begin with criticism of Israel and eventually become guilty of anti-Semitism? Of course. And we must guard against this. But to paint all those critical of Israel, or even those who reject the Zionist project, as anti-Semitic is wrong. I also believe that many, if not most Americans, superimpose their preconceived notions, right or left, on a struggle they do not understand. It's human nature. The settler-colonist framing of the Zionist project is as simplistic as the framing that ignores the Palestinians because supposedly the deity gave the land to the Jews. Both sides have done terrible things along the way, and they continue to. Where Greenblatt and many American Jews lose the plot is that Israel cannot lay claim to democracy while ruling over another people with no end in sight. And the Israeli settler movement has made it near impossible to form two contiguous independent states. Where the anti-Zionists lose the plot is that both peoples have legitimate claims to this land, and if Israel just lay down its weapons, it would be overrun. In truth, this is a complicated and messy conflict involving two peoples indigenous to a tiny strip of land who, though locked in struggle, must eventually learn to live together. This is why I support a small but growing innovative movement called A Land for All that seeks to create a confederation of two nations who would each have set political boundaries, but would allow both peoples to live wherever they wanted to west of the Jordan River. And then he gives the address alandforall.org.
Wow.
/English if you want that. So thanks for writing in, Rabbi Gruber. I appreciate that. And I didn't get in big trouble, so that's a double win for me.
Dan.
There is at least one Jew out there who doesn't think that I'm anti-Semitic. So that is or at least doesn't think that particular thing that I said was anti-Semitic. He might think I am. I don't know. So we've got some new people to thank, and I'm going to start us off. I want to first thank Andrea, who is a new deacon with us and over on PayPal. So thank you so much, Andrea, for joining in. Congratulations on your Mormon magic powers. And thanks to Peter, who is a patriarch now in the TGIA fake Mormon church. So that is impressive. So thank you so much for that.
Is indeed. And we have some people to thank over on Patreon as well, Dan.
Woo!
We have a new deacon by the name of My Dad Got Lyme Disease and Only Eli Bosnick Can Help.
Okay.
Okay.
I feel for your dad then.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while.
We have a new teacher by the name of Jacko Fall.
Uh-huh.
We have two new priests.
Woo!
We have Francis and Ray.
Nice.
So thank you to both of you.
Well done.
And we have a new elder by the name of Joseph.
Oh, we are just doling out priesthood like it's going out of style, y'all.
Goodness gracious.
Thank you guys so much, and congratulations on all of the cool shit that you'll get, including magic powers. And for most of you, you get the Frank and Dan Diary, a weekly bonus, some bonus material only for our patrons.
So
That's
good.
Pretty exciting.
We put a lot of work into it. And
that sounds facetious, and it is. So great.
But it's excellent.
Now we're not going to have any more people, Frank. Thanks.
It's still there. It's still fun.
It is fun. It's a lot of fun. People like it. So if you want to join the ranks of these people, go to thankgodimatheist.com, click on the support tab. You sign up however you want to. You pay us however much you want to. And then we're just as grateful to you, and you get the magic powers and everything. So, there's no downside here. It's all gravy. And I think we have one more person to thank, don't we, Frank?
We do indeed, Dan. Our top donor, our Lord and Savior, Austin!
More show coming up. Well, Frank,
Dan.
we will be, as mentioned earlier in the show, on July 15th through the 17th in Portland, Oregon, we will be keynote speaking at the Conference on Death, Grief, and Belief.
Yeah.
Which you can find out about at deathgriefandbelief.com. And one of the topic that we will be talking about is leaving religion.
Specifically high demand religions.
High demand religion especially. And how it parallels death in a family. The ways that it. So we're not going to, give our whole talk now.
No.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about our experiences and the experiences of specifically Mormons.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mormonism, it's a global religion.
To speak.
They claim 14, 15, 16 million.
So global.
Yeah.
So many people.
I mean,
out of how many billions on the planet these days?
They're all over the place.
Oh.
The fact that there's only 2 of them in Afghanistan doesn't mean that they're not there.
Global,
bitches. Anywho, it's a very high demand religion. It is culty. If you want to get it, depending on your definition of cult, you go ahead and define it however you want. But it is high demand for sure.
Yeah.
And they have one of the hooks that they get in you and that keeps you there is that they say you can be with your family forever, eternally.
I love that this is like a selling point, right?
Right?
Like this is not like if the missionaries showed up and I'd never heard of Mormonism and I was like, oh, who are these kids? Yeah, let's hear what you have to say. And they get to that part and they're like, and you can be with your family forever. And I'm like, can I pick which ones?
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't sound great. That doesn't sound great.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
Can I not? Is that an option or is this just a... I don't know.
There are specifically people I would... No.
Right. Here's the thing though. Mormons hold on to this concept and it means everything to a lot of them. And so
yeah,
if one of their kids decides, I actually don't believe this anymore. They're not just sort of, rejecting the ethos of the family. They're not just rejecting the dogma that they were raised in. They're ruining an eternal family.
And they just broke their Mormon mom's heart. It's for real.
She literally everybody, it gets intense.
Mm-hmm.
I know multiple people whose parents disowned them.
Mm.
I know multiple people who went through years of just really, really hard times with their families. Now, Mormonism doesn't have what the Jehovah's Witnesses have, which is a sort of regimented shunning.
Mm.
Like if someone leaves, you're supposed to shun them. Like that's written into the rules.
Right.
Mormonism doesn't have that, but they still somehow figure out how to shun.
Yeah, it's just sort of, well, I mean, on like the very local level, like your local community, like you have no reason to interact with them anymore if you leave the church, right? Because it's like your neighborhood here in Utah, at least in a lot of Utah, your neighbors are the people you go to church with. Yeah. And then consequently, because it is so high demand, your whole life is wrapped up around that congregation, right? Your social life is wrapped up around it. All the activities that your kids are involved in are wrapped up around it.
It's very likely if you are a Mormon and you are a participating Mormon that you don't even have friends who aren't in the church.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
And then when you come out, guess how many of those friends want to stay friends with you?
Yeah.
It's very frequently zero.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do. They don't know how to talk to you anymore. They don't know how to deal with you. And you're probably also, not for nothing, going through some shit.
Yeah.
You're angry. You're upset. You're hurt. And you don't want to deal with them anymore either, it turns out, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you literally have to grieve this, and your family has to grieve this moment in the way it is. Like, the death comparison is not an exaggeration. People grieve this as though they're experiencing a death.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. No.
So anyway,
my mom's told me multiple times that, or no. She hasn't actually told me. She's told my sister, and my sister told me, which is the best, that she could have handled me being gay, right? On whatever level that means, right? But it's the atheism. It's the rejection of the church, right?
Oh,
that she just can't handle. Which,
by the way, is bullshit. Because the truth is that, like, they go hand in hand. You don't. Gay people who stay in the church are just miserable.
Yeah.
But she would not have just been okay with you being gay.
No, but she feels like it's something that she could have worked on.
Right.
Right. That with enough prayer, maybe. Right. But if I'm not willing to take on some work, right? i.e., I'm atheist, so why in God's name would I, that's her logic.
Things.
That's her logic. Yeah. It's fine. But yeah. So take that one.
It is a tough thing. And what we would like from you guys, this is a call to action. We want to hear your stories. If you left a church, we want to know, we're drawing this comparison between death and leaving.
Mm.
And maybe it's the opposite. For a lot of people, maybe leaving the church was their first breath of life.
Oh, for the person leaving, yes. Absolutely.
But if you lost your family, then you went through death to get there. Anyway, we want to hear your stories. Write to us. Tell us your stories. Mm-hmm. We're compiling stories right now and sort of getting a sense of, if you're Mormon, yes, we want to hear your story. We do. But we also want to hear, if you're Jehovah's Witnesses, or if you were raised, in the Heaven's Gate cult, whatever it was. We want to hear, and we want to know. We want to know what your emotional experience of this, of the events of you leaving. What was the impact?
Mm-hmm.
How did it affect you? It will be so useful to us as we're preparing. We've been working on this her speech we're going to give over in July. So remember, if you want to come and see us speak in Portland at the Death, Grief, and Belief at the Death, Grief, and Belief conference, go to deathgriefandbelief.com. I can't say it, but you can still go. If you can't make it to the entire event, you can just come and see our little thing on Saturday the 16th. That's just our thing. That's $15 to come and see us. And there is an atheist after party following our thing. You'll meet us. You'll meet Seth Andrews, who's also going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. So sign up for all of the things. Send us your stories. We want to hear it. Podcast at thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you could call and tell us about it. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah. Go to the Facebook page, folks. Facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, you can do so. Just go to thankgodimatheist.com/members-only for directions.
Thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their fine music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.